Yo, what up, Internet? Welcome to Bricks and Beer, episode 88. Cheers, everybody. This is your captain speaking. This one's gonna be weird. It's about boats. Boats, right? Boats. Boats that float. But before we talk about that, we should talk about the beer, as always. Today's beer is from King Harbor Brewing, local brewery here. This is the Redondo Special Cerveza style lager. It's quite tasty, quite refreshing. You can see it's got some boats. See? It's on brand. Boats. Boats galore. There's another boat. Boat beer. It's good. I like this brewery. It's local-ish to us, which is nice. We'll talk about Redondo, I guess, a little later in the episode. But before we get into boats, we gotta talk boats that don't float. Sometimes Lego does this dumb thing where they make boats and they don't float. I don't know. I guess that's cool. It's a bit weird when they make boats that don't float to me because I grew up in the 80s and the 90s where everything was boats that float for the most part. Like old school boats that float. This is a new school boat that floats. But there's like things like this friend's boat clearly doesn't float. I guess the pirate ships didn't float either. The small ones did. The little dinghies you could put in a tub, they could float around. I have a bunch of these boat holes. I have this crocodile one that I've never used from the first Chima croc boat. That one. Everybody has that one, I guess. It was cool. It came with olive. It was like brand new at the time, the whole olive green thing. So that was kind of interesting. And if I'm going to talk about boats, I'm going to have to talk about some older models because that's what I got. I got new models to show you guys, but I also got old models. And probably the oldest one, the one I'm probably the most proud of, is this one. This is my Miami Vice boat. It's fucking awesome. It's a power boat. It goes real fast. It's a go fast boat. You can smuggle drugs in it. See, there's little panels. Open up, smuggle drugs. It's got Don Johnson and his lady in there. Which one? Who knows? Funny thing about Miami Vice and Don Johnson. So Don Johnson actually lived on a boat in both the show and real life while he was filming that. And he also had a powerboat racing team. And powerboat racing is like ridiculous because it costs like millions and millions of dollars in the 80s, which means it costs millions and millions more dollars now. And it was a big thing to do for like real drug dealers. I watched this Cocaine Cowboys thing about this guy. He was a big time guy. I don't remember his name. He looks like that. There's his team. See, he's cool. He's got a boat. Anyway, Don Johnson had a race team with powerboating with fucking Chuck Norris. It was called Team USA. And they like won a bunch of shit, which is hilarious to me. This is really old. This is like over a decade old because I'm old now. So my old mocks are old. And I don't really keep a lot of builds around, but because this is a boat that floats, what the fuck else are you gonna do with this boat that floats thing? It's also super cool. I like it quite a bit. It's heavy as fuck because this is the boat hull. Obviously, only goes here, and then this is all brick built engine stuff in the back. So when it sits in the water, like so, it looks aggressive. And then, rest in peace. This motor used to work. This is an underwater Lego motor. It has a little rudder, so you can make it do circles and shit. I think I can fix this. I'm not really sure. I hope I can, because this is fairly rare. And this, when I built it, I was given this by Fredel. You guys know Fredel. Yeah, that Fredel. Yeah. He gave this to me long ago when we built these boats back in the day. And you can plug it in on the bottom. And then, because of the way that there's a battery usually in here, and the weight kind of gives it a little more aggressive stance in the water, so it can, be charging through, doing the boat thing, the power boat thing. I'm quite proud of this. Like it's pretty elegant in just there's there's stuff going on, but it's not really fancy. It's kind of simple, so it's kind of perfect. Like real boats are interesting things because they can be super complicated. Like there's all those naval, like old timey boats with rigging and shit, but like modern boats are fairly like streamlined all the way through. So I tried to keep this fairly streamlined, and like I said, it's quite old, so things are kind of clicking apart here and there. Yeah. So when I built this, I had to build other boats because, like I said, at the time I was hanging out with Fradel, and we were doing silly things like putting boats in jacuzzis. That's his boat. Yeah. See? Hey, there's Fradel. Gary was there too. Shout out to you, Gary. So I built my Miami Vice boat, and because it's a drug smuggling boat, in sense, you have to have a cop boat. I don't even know where I got this hull from, but it's old. It's from some old Lego set. That one. And I wanted to make like a modern harbor patrol police boat, Coast Guard kind of boat. It's got a machine gun on the front, which is probably a little overkill. But, like I said, I was hanging out with Fradel. Everything was overkill at that time. It's got some cops in there. It's got tubs. There you go. There's tubs. This one also floats because, boats that float are awesome. Boats that don't float, they're okay, I guess. So yeah, police boat. It's fun. There's not much to say about these because they're kind of old. And to be honest, they're kind of boring because they're sort of meant to be boring. This one in particular is sort of meant to be boring. Because, it's just like everyday town shit. There's mad glare, so I'll cut some photos in with less glare to also prove that they float, because that was the whole point of this exercise, right? So lastly of the old boats that float, I've got a pirate boat. And this is kind of more your Somali pirate style. And this one, too, has been around for a long time. And this was the original Ronin Lug pirate boat, which means that it had the original Ronin Lug pirate crew, which was like me and Paul and Aaron and Fradel. Now, because I roll with the Whack Lug homies, I had to update the crew. So here you can see there's a slightly updated crew. Here's the, standard version, pirate version. Aaron got all bent out of shape. He's like, man, am I a basic bitch? Because I didn't change between the old one and the new one. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine, dude. Don't sweat it. It just means that you're you. It means you're pure of heart. So this is the old one. It also floats, not very well, but it counts. It floats. This part is super old. This is like a classic boat that floats hull. Not a great one. Honestly, not a great one, especially in comparison to this. This is kind of like what I think of like the more modern, meaning retro boats that float. And then I've got, some new ones, but I'll show you a whip. It's not a boat that floats, but it's based on a boat that floats. Stand by. Boom. So for whatever reason, I have a fireboat hull that floats. So I made this. It's a spaceship. It's like a space boat, future boat. It's a firefighter. Someday I'll finish this. This has been sitting on a shelf forever. See, it's got a fire logo. Classic one. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with this. It's literally been on this fucking thing over there for like a year. May or may not finish it. I might just scrap this, but what the fuck else am I gonna do with this boat hull, So if you got boat hulls, do some shit with them, I guess. That's the moral. Oh, it's nice and dusty. See that layer of dust there? It sits right under a window, so just shit comes in, goes all over it. It does have the cool new helmets, though, from the more recent diver sets, which I think make, like, cool future firefighter helmets. And I like this dude, because he's got, like, a little jetpack deal. It's kind of based on the classic jetpack piece, but it's all brick built, because that's how I do. This guy, he's got a grabby claw. And then we got the chief, He can just yell at you about how you're bad at putting out fires or whatever. there's sort of a boat, sort of a mock. This episode's a little weird. This episode's a little cursed because I feel like I've been needing to do this episode forever. Mainly because I built one thing, which I'll show you here in a minute. But it, like, every time I've sat down to record this, like, some shit has happened. There was a fucking mosquito in here earlier that I had to, like, run around the room like a Looney Tune killing. Yeah. And then, you know, it's just, sometimes you gotta fake the funk a little bit. So if this one seems weird and or short, that's why. Yeah. You know, you get what you get. So going back to Redondo, going back to King Harbor, one of the things my wife enjoys doing is paddleboarding. I'm not so much into the water sports, but I'm a good husband, so I go on these things with her every once in a while. And we paddleboard around, and we stay kind of in the marina, because like I said, I'm not really into water sports, so I'm not like out in the open ocean. But we're just chilling, and there's a slip, obviously, in Redondo, and there's boats there, you know, boats. So I'm paddleboarding around, and most of them are like fairly nice boats because it's a nice area. And then sometimes you find one, it's a little rougher around the edges. It's, you know, it's kind of great. Um, so I found this one. It's called Foolish Behavior. It's a houseboat, and it sits next to this like really nice yacht. And it's basically a floating living room. It's kind of a piece of shit, which is kind of why I love it. So Foolish Behavior is weird because it's just like a big square blue house, and it's got like a lamp, and like the area where you drive the boat is just like the front of the house, which is kind of hilarious to me. And so, you know, every time I go out paddleboarding, I make a point of going by Foolish Behavior and checking it out because I think it's cool and I think it's funny. And it's got some cool tentacles drawn on the back, which was like the first thing that drew my eye. And then it, you know, it says Foolish Behavior on it. And I'm like, man, there are fucking some good parties on that boat, I bet. You can't live on the boats in the slip in Redondo. I looked into it briefly because I was going to, you know, try to pull a Don Johnson. But you can only stay, I think, like 3 nights a month or a year or something. Some ridiculous amount of time, which is not enough to live on a boat. So Foolish Behavior seems even more foolish and even more ridiculous because of that fact, because it's not just like a trailer that you live in. It's literally like a temporary trailer that you come and hang out and party in. So I had to build my own. So that's where all of this has led to. So this is my version of Foolish Behavior, which is a houseboat. And there's really gnarly glare here, so I'm gonna have to put some actual photos together, and we'll show you guys. But here's the front. There's the captain. You know what I'm talking about. We got a little paddleboard action. We got a couple of paddle boards here. Here's a door. All the railings are kind of whack. They work and stuff, but there's like barely any room for minifigures to realistically walk around, and the doors don't actually open in the side. Whatever, it's fine. You got some fishing poles and shit. I'm dripping water out of this onto the computer. That's probably less than optimal. See that? It was floating. Oh man, there's a fuck ton of water coming out of this. Are we done? Done with the water? I guess we're done with the water. Yeah. So, if the podcast explodes, you guys know why. So yeah, and then here's the other side. It's got a little folding chair. You got some life preservers. Here's a piece of shit air conditioner that's in here. And then on the back, we got the doors. These actually do open up so that you can actually enter your boat that floats. So there you go. And like Foolish Behavior, this is basically just a floating living room. Going back to what I was saying before, I got that fishing store, like Anton's fishing store, and it came with a bunch of printed bits. One of which is this teeny tiny little printed tile that's for hooks. So I included that because you got some fishing gear and some lanterns and shit. And a cooler. for all your beers. And then the inside, because it does have an inside, and removable roof panels. This one, you gotta take this little thing off to get this one off. And it's kind of hideous inside, and it's not accurate to Foolish Behavior. Foolish Behavior is much bigger than this, but you know, everything Lego's sort of chibi anyway, so like I figured it was fine. It's also kind of like supposed to be a piece of shit, so you know. So we got a bed, we got a record player with a hi-fi system, and you can see the cockpit a little bit in there. It's basically just a chair with a controls. We got a little bar set up with this super rad tile with the guy playing the saxophone, appropriate for yacht rock. Here is the AC on the inside, Barking Lounger, floor lamp, guitar, all the things you need for a good time, you know, doing your yacht rock boat life thing. And this is one of the few things I actually like bought something for, because when I built this originally, I built it on one of these holes. I have one of these. It comes in like a diving boat town set, that one, which is great. It's a great set. And I didn't really intend for this to float. I didn't even really intend to build this. It just sort of like happened. And then I built it, and it was on this single bolt hole. And I went to put it in the water, and it fucking sank like a rock. Not quite like a rock. It more sort of rolled and then sank. Because of that, I needed a second hole. So I had this one, because I also have another boat. I think this is like a racing boat. And I doubled up the holes, and then it floats. And it just barely floats. Like, just barely floats. But it's good enough. So I spent the $2, and I bricklayed the second hole so that I could have this houseboat that floats. It's got a little dinghy, hangs off the edge. You know, you can lounge with your beers in your dinghy and put it on the railing here. There's a photo. You know, that guy, he's living his best life, man. That guy, he like swims with dolphins and shit. It's fucking great. So there's your little dinghy, you know, hanging off the back. And yeah, so it's a boat. It floats. It's a houseboat based on Foolish Behavior, which is, you know, fitting. Seems kind of like a weird thing to build for me, especially because I don't build town stuff really, especially like this kind of weird-ish town stuff. But I haven't seen anybody really build like a houseboat per se, especially like a piece of shit houseboat. I originally wanted it to be blue, like Foolish Behavior, but that didn't really work out. I don't really have the bricks to do that. So instead, it's this nougat color, which I think kind of lends it to looking like a trailer park on the water, which is really what I wanted. Yeah, there's your dude, there's your captain, drinking some booze, having a good time. See, we match. On brand. Yeah, so that's this boat, and then I gotta wipe this water off the computer. So, oh man, there's fucking water everywhere. Good times. Good times. Yeah, so I got one more model to show you guys. It's also a boat. It's a cargo boat. It's micro scale. It's much different than the rest of these. You know, everything else is scaled to minifigs, so you can have your minifigs floating. This is micro. Oh, this one's also full of water. I guess I didn't drain these real properly before I did this. Live, uncut. We're gonna try not to pour this one over the computer. So it's a cargo ship, obviously, as you guys can tell by the cargo and the wetness. I really like cargo ships. You know, there was. I live in LA, and there's the Port of Long Beach, and it's down the way that way. So there's always cargo ships here, like hanging out, waiting to get in and out. And there was that one boat in the Suez Canal, you know, the one with the memes. That one, I'm stuck. So yeah, and I was like, fuck. And now I got one more floaty boat hole. I got to do something with it. This is an old school one as well. And this is not quite as old as this one, but At least I think. I don't know. I didn't do much research for this, to be honest. Um, but I wanted to make a cargo ship. And at first, I started doing like research, looking up what cargo ships look like, because I kind of vaguely know, but like not really. Um, and one of the things is, the early days of cargo ships, before the cargo standard, like the container standard, container ships, was adopted like universally. The early ones had their own little cranes, and I was like, oh, that would be cool. I'll make one with a little crane, because there's some old school Lego sets that have boats with cranes and stuff. And then there's ones that are just like a seaport. There's like an intercoastal seaport set 6541. That was the one I always like lusted after when I was a kid. There's the Marina one too, the sail away Marina, sail and fly Marina, 6543 numbers. They're hard. So I thought about putting cranes on this, but I decided to go with a more modern version and not do cranes, basically because I'm lazy. I built this in like, I don't know, a night and a half, 2 nights. Mainly though, it's the bulk of the build is the containers. And that was kind of a challenge because like you don't want them to match, but then like real container ships, they don't aesthetically think about what colors of containers go next to each other. So sometimes you end up with some of the same colors next to each other. And this is all lies. Total lies. Meaning it's fake. It's full of lies. Which I actually think this is kind of clever because you can hide things. You can contain things within the container, if you know what I mean. So, when the cops come and they're looking through your house, boo, 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 and they're looking for your stash, they're probably not going to look inside your Lego container ship if you hide your illicit monies or drugs or whatever you hide in container ships. So the idea was that this was going to float, and as you can see, it doesn't. I'm okay with that. It really is fine. And immediately, like, all my nerdy fucking Lego friends are like, you need to put more ballast in the bottom and have a weight so it doesn't roll. No, bro. The water line's already above the hole. That means it's fucked. So this one does not float. Boat does not float. That's okay. It's cool. It's tiny. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm building town stuff. My life is weird right now. It's full of water everywhere. So yeah. And, I have this kiddie pool because I have a dog. And my dog was like, get these fucking Legos out of my kiddie pool. So that's where those photos came from. Yeah. So I guess that's it. Oh, I was going to bring something else down here, but I forgot. So I guess we'll talk about it next time. Anyway, it's a short one. It's, quick. Just, yacht rock. Listen to some yacht rock. It's fun. I'm old, I guess. Yeah. So cheers. Thanks everybody for watching. I guess I'll see you next time. And remember, I'm the captain now.